il s'arrache.
Il est passé. Super, l'artiste. Super, encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! Vi er i semifinale igjen!
One of the best main rounds we have ever seen has come to an end, and we have our 4 semi-finalists. And it finished with 2 games that didn't really matter, and that's because during the course of the day, first it was Iceland that secured their 3rd ever semi-final spot in an EHF Euro, dispatching Slovenia. Then the big games. Croatia did that business, coming back against Hungary and winning in front of a rapturous group of Croatian fans in Malmö, and Germany put away the best team in the tournament, France, and sent them packing. And of course, at the end, Denmark, who were already qualified, but waltzed to a top position in the group. So the semi-finals are now set. Iceland versus Denmark, Germany versus Croatia. These are some tasty games, Chris.
They sure are. That was your pre-tournament prediction, right? For Iceland to beat Denmark in a semi-final?
At least that one is still set up.
Sure is.
My prediction of France winning it all came crashing down, but Iceland beating Denmark in a semi-final still on.
Yeah, France finishing in 7th place. That says something about the best team in this competition, apparently. Such is the fine margins at the top of European handball. And it really does say something when I had this strange feeling while commentating on Sweden versus Switzerland, a one-sided game which didn't really mean anything. And I was like, I actually haven't had this feeling for the entire championship so far. How lucky have I been to cover the games I have? It's something that, we have to go through as a commentator. Dud games. Usually it's Cape Verde losing by 20 goals to a team like Slovenia. But here it was our beloved Switzerland on the receiving end of a spanking by Sweden, who showed up a little too late, I would say.
What was that like? Obviously,
are we starting with
format
this?
Of the, yeah, we can.
We'll go through. You can ask me about that later.
Before we dive in, just want to thank everyone who has followed us throughout the championship, who's joined on Patreon, who's interacted in the Discord. It's been a lot of fun. I think having this community makes the championships a lot more fun for me. Hope it makes it fun for you. So if you haven't signed up, do sign up to the Patreon. And if you don't want to sign up for a Patreon, you still like us and you want to give us something, then what you can do is go on to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast and give us a 5-star rating. We have a few of them, but it does help the podcast move up in the tables. It makes it more visible. So if there's a small thing you can do for us, go into that app, leave us a review, give us a 5-star rating. It does help us.
Let's start with the big dogs, though. It's only right to start with Germany versus France. The battle of 2 traditional powerhouses. There was only room for one to progress. How did it all play out? I mean, I didn't get to see it live. I just followed on the live ticker every now and then during a timeout. But it seemed like Germany were, in fact, the better team. And they also won.
Absolutely. Across the board, Germany were the better team. And all of the flack that we've been giving Alfred Giselsen and this Germany team for not having that succinct idea of what they should play like. In this game, they put together a flawless performance. And I really stick by that it was a flawless performance because France were not terrible. France made a big storm in the second half and a weaker team could have wilted at that. But Germany were, they responded to everything that France gave them. And they responded in the exact correct way. And France gave them a lot, to be fair. So the first half was an absolute storm. Both teams going on kind of big scoring runs led by Disciplinary, who it was a big game for Disciplinary. You know, he's had a couple of duds in this tournament. I think a lot of people were looking at him and saying, you know, are you still a top dog here? Are you still one of the best players in the world? And he showed that he was. 7 goals in the first half for him. But in a probably very surprising turn of events. And this one is exactly what we talked about, how Germany just need one of their backcourt players to show up. And in this case, it was Yuri Knorr, who had the game of his life. And, you know, he's had really great games where all of the responsibility was on him in these previous iterations of Germany. But in this case, first, I'll say he didn't start. I don't know if that was planned or not, but, you know, I say Gislason and Germany executed a perfect plan, but I don't think they planned on being quite toothless in the first 5-10 minutes. But Yuri Knorr came on shortly in the first half and just started banging them in. He scored 10 from 10 in his first 10 shots.
Wow.
And I think most of them were in the first half and probably the first 5-6 minutes of the second half. The reason why it was so effective was that the French defense was an absolute shambles. It looked like for a moment that it was one of these classic goalkeeper performances from France, because there's a couple of times that Germany really did squeeze through some awkward balls, and you're looking at the French goalkeepers who both, you know, played in that first half and like, oh no, it's happening again. It's happening again. But then what really happened was the French defense, Karl Conan and Ludovic Fabregas, just stood on the 6-meter line. And Dikamem and Prandi, as the number 2 defenders, stood miles to the side of them, up over the 9-meter line. And they weren't in sync at all. And Germany just kept shooting over the top. Bang over the top. Bang from 10 meters. Bang from 9 meters. Yuri Knorr, Ustjins, Gergic, all of them getting miles of space and shooting over the blocks, because there was no block, because those 2 center defenders were completely flat-footed, especially at the start of the second half. It was dire. And these are 2 of the best defenders in the world, Karl Conan and Ludovic Fabregas. But they couldn't do anything, and it felt like they were in quicksand. Time and time again, Germany would just shoot over, and ultimately it was one of these old school handball games. The amount of 9-meter shooting in that first half or in the first 40 minutes was wonderful to see.
Nice.
Like, they're going in. It was fun. You know, there was hardly any penalties. There was hardly any stoppages. It was just action and just good old-fashioned 9-meter shooting. That's where, you know, Germany just took the game under control in those first 40 minutes. And it looked like a long way back for France, who did then change up. It wasn't a timeout that changed things. It was just one of these shots from Yuri Knorr from 9 meters, and no one touched him. The 2 central defenders were completely separated, and Knorr just shot over them. And looking at that, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? But France responded.
Was there any time that it actually looked like Germany might have been on the verge of losing it? Because France did come back, and even with 9 minutes left, Aymeric Amin scored 2 goals in a row, put them within 1 of Germany. Was there that feeling that, okay, Germany are about to lose the handle on this?
I thought so.
Okay.
And it was pretty much after that 40-minute mark, maybe 35 minutes, where France went with a very aggressive defense, and Karl Conan and Fabregas and Thibaut Brier in that center block were extremely aggressive. So they started really stepping out on those German shooters, and it worked. They started kind of getting flustered, and I did say that Yuri Knorr scored his first 10 shots, but after that, he actually had 2 shots that were caught with 2 hands by Devaney, and Germany were really flustered that their whole attacking plan was to shoot over the middle. It was open to them. France gave it to them, and it was working. When France shut that down, Germany did start getting flustered. I think defensively they had a good game, the Germany team. Like a lot of the goals that France were scoring were in kind of that transition play in second wave and kind of moving things around. DKM coming up with a lot of rockets. It really looked like France were coming back. Like that transition play started working. Aymeric Means started ripping through the defense. He was really good. But at that crucial moment when it got tight, I think within one goal, Germany figured it out. They started moving the ball, and knowing that there was so much space allowed by France because they were stepping out and moving so much, they started moving it out and really activating Özcan's and kind of breaking through on the right side because there was a lot of space there. They did it at the right time. They shot over the middle when they needed to, when France gave them that. When France shut that down and gave them space on the sides, they were able to move the ball quickly and take advantage of that space, activating the wingers more, activating the back players. For France, they could have won this game, but they missed a lot of easy chances. So in that run where they did storm back to within one goal, there was a couple of big misses. The line players, Fabregas missed 2, Ternat missed 1, very clear open shots. And the absolute, and again, there was big saves from Wolf and Spät in those. There
wasn't many though, right? They lost the goalkeeper battle, but they fewer shots at the goal compared to France.
Yeah, exactly. The way it worked was Germany made the big saves on like really open shots. So most of those saves were from 6 meters, whether wing, line, or breakthrough that really disrupted France, while on the other side, Disciplinary did play well, but that was when Germany were kind of in a panic and kept shooting over the top when they really didn't have that option anymore. So they're let's say, standard saves versus big, dramatic kind of game-saving saves on the other side. But they responded really well. And then I think it was on the 53rd minute, Jurgen Nord took a shot. It was easily saved. And he looked over at Gislason and was like, take me off, coach. I've given everything I have into this.
This is the development of the man and the team. The final 10-minute collapses there, but knowing when not to be on court is true wisdom. So fair play to Jurgen Nord and Germany.
He did. He slumped off because he was completely exhausted. He'd taken 16 shots from 9 meters. That's too much for an arm to handle. And came on again. Gergic and Özcan's took they did what we know they can do. They can come up with these magic moments where it's like a difficult shot. They're floating in weird places, but they did it to kind of get ahead of France. And again, it happened so naturally, but Germany responded to everything that France gave them. They put in a performance worthy of a top team in this championship and used their squad, used their players correctly, used their tactics correctly, and their goalkeepers came up when they needed them. And that's the end of that. France are going to go home and fire their coach because that is exactly what everyone wants to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's quite a fall from grace for the reigning champions. But, reigning champions says one thing. Since then, they had an incredibly disappointing Olympics where they lost to Germany in a quarterfinal. They lost to Croatia in a World Championship semi-final. And now in 7th place at this Euro. And the ultimate insult to French handball that they have to play a World Championship qualification match for the first time in I don't know how long. So that says it all. The downfall of French handball, and they'll have to figure out a way to deal with that. Germany through in 2nd place from Group 1 behind Denmark, who stormed to victory over Norway to seal top spot. And while we had that big showdown of Germany versus France, it was a very different conclusion to main round Group 2, and almost a more fitting one for the way that group and this whole side of the tournament has gone. Just a 2-day Royal Rumble to decide who gets to emerge and challenge the other teams in Herning, who gets the privilege of taking a 4-hour bus ride tomorrow to Herning to be put up as lambs for the slaughter, or maybe not. We'll see as we look forward and predict. But yeah, 2 days of more tension, drama, and just like at the end of it all, Croatia winning the group, Iceland finishing in second, Sweden finishing third. The difference in the end was who could beat Hungary and who couldn't. Who would have thought it, Alex? That was the actual thing. It was Chema Rodriguez's boys battling away for their hearts and their nation. They were the true kingmakers in this group. And while Iceland managed to sneak past them at the end of the preliminary round, they earned their spot that way. Sweden could not, and Croatia could. And really, it was those two games that were the big, dramatic, defining matches of that whole thing. And that Sweden-Hungary game was the big one last night. The penultimate game for both teams.
Oh yeah, we didn't.
Because we haven't recorded since then, right? So
we haven't even mentioned the controversy that
precisely. But this is where I'm going to. Don't worry. And what I find remarkable about all of this is like seeing how two different handball worlds and like different societies within handball and different points of view within handball can look at the same situation and have such contrasting views, or in the Swedish case, not even consider it a thing, while the rest of the handball world are throwing their hands up and saying, why didn't we get a penalty? Why didn't Hungary, why didn't Hungary get a penalty at the end of that game against Sweden to secure the victory? Because of a clear moment of inside defending, which was missed despite the video review, which I felt like a fool because I was watching the video review with everyone watching and said, that's a penalty. And then...
Well, you were right.
The decision was nothing. No decision in the end. No penalty. And it just truly fascinating because it blew up on our Discord as well. People were talking about it and someone asked, like, what did the Swedes think about this in the Swedish media? So on the way home from the arena, that's what I did. I jumped onto Viaplay and listened and watched all of the post-match reaction, and nobody mentioned it. All the talk was about how Sweden have blown their chance to stay in control of the group, and not even considering for half a second that Andreas Palika's missed shot at the end probably would have been cancelled out if he had scored it because it shouldn't have been a penalty. Just mad. Like, and it opened my eyes to just how, like, how fascinating and how diverse the handball world is and how they look at these situations. And really, everyone just cares about themselves.
Yeah.
Unless you have no skin in the game. And then you actually can, like we do, and we can take a neutral view, which, as we've learned also, some people don't like.
Yeah, I think the thing from a Swedish perspective is the draw was as bad as a loss.
Yeah.
It didn't really make a difference for them. For Sweden, because it still put qualification out of their hands. While for Croatia, it did change what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. So therefore, for Croatia, that one goal made such a massive difference. For Sweden, it didn't really matter. It was all out of their hands.
But I mean, it was 100% a penalty.
Oh, it was. Right? Yeah.
I haven't heard anyone's take on any media or social media saying that wasn't a penalty. Yeah,
my only thought is it's a weird one because it looks like at the moment of contact, Hampus Vanna is on his toes, and his toes are inside, while his heel is raised and above the line. That would be my only, the only thing I can think of that when the referees looked at that, they saw that moment and, gave the
benefit of the doubt.
Gave the benefit of the doubt. But I don't see how a referee can actually look at that and not give the penalty.
That's what I'm so surprised about, because generally benefit of the doubt in all handball decisions goes to the attacker. I mean, there's so many times that is
And
the case.
not with attacking fouls though. I think that's one of the things about handball, that there is such a range of possibilities with an attacking foul, that
Even when it's a penalty.
like it definitely is a penalty. Like if that happened in the 12th minute of the game, it would have been a penalty. And I think the referees shrank in that moment. And honestly, this whole like announcement at the end of after a VAR decision has been really good throughout the tournament, but the referees can't come out and say, we've looked at it, nothing. They have to, like, the whole point is that you explain what happened, what you're looking at, and
I feel like there hasn't been enough, there hasn't been enough training in that, because everyone is so nervous when they're doing it.
yeah.
Like, and so unsure about what the actual words are that they're supposed to say. And that just made it sound worse, because then you do have people kind of mocking the actual choice of words being used. So, yeah. Quite ironic then a day later.
Love that. I love
A
it.
very, very similar situation emerges once again, pretty much in the same position on the court, basically. This time it's Hungary who are trying to draw level instead of snatch the victory. I think that time the decision was correct. The defender was outside of the area and was in position. I found it quite almost quite satisfying.
Yeah, it's quite poetic.
The Swedish fans were booing it, and it's like, how little you know, because the rest of the world is angry about you getting away with a situation like this yesterday. But yeah, I think that again, a fantastic battle between those two nations, and one which, I mean, Croatia, we have to give them their dues. Like 4 wins out of 4 in the main round. Doing it with lads limping around. I thought Ivan Martinovic blew his Achilles today. He went down so many times in anguish. This guy has like hurt his ankle twice now in the main round. Keeps battling back. Zvonimir Cerna, after like out today with an apparent hamstring injury, so he was hopping around. He probably pulled his hamstring 3 times yesterday, and still battled on until he couldn't anymore. Like, these guys, Tin Luchin, who's like an old favourite of ours, like Brian Campion's old favourite player from back when he burst onto the scene, doing the business for them. It's just a group of absolute warriors and a fantastic defensive system that has basically been the foundation for this group victory for them. Like the fact that they've set a defense like that, the fluidity between basically Marko Mamic going out on the top of the defense and going back into 6-0. The fact that they can do that. Him and Shushnia, the 2 bruisers in there, just like welcoming all comers to try and beat them, while having a very subpar but gritty attack. Yeah, they've done it. They're through to a semi-final again. Amazing.
They didn't concede 30 goals in the main round, which is extremely impressive.
In this championship as well.
Championship, in this generation of handball, where France are averaging 40 goals, where we're seeing 38 draws happening. Croatia have managed to keep a lid on very impressive offensive teams in this main round as well. Incredibly impressive. And the other controversy where Lukas Sindrich is the only one, or the biggest person who's come out against it, is the fact that they did have to play 2 crucial games back to back, that this whole group had to play less than 24 hours after their first games. It's pretty difficult to understand why this was done.
It happens. I remember it for as long as I've been at Euros that is generally the case, that one of the groups ends up playing twice in a row, so that both groups end at the same time. I think the problem there lay from the very beginning, the fact that this side of the draw was playing later than the other one, yet this side of the draw is the one that has to travel tomorrow to Herning, and that was done the wrong way. Everyone knew this before. They had their time to plan it. They had, those teams have had a shorter championship than everyone else. So, they can say that might be an advantage in a way. But when you have to play twice in a row like that, it's really, really tough. And that's what I mean. It was a Royal Rumble in there, like the last men standing were Croatia and Iceland.
Iceland are qualifying to their first semi-final in 16 years. So a huge result for Iceland. I think there was a lot of pressure put on this team. There was a lot of expectation on this team going into the tournament. A team full of Magdeburg players, World and Bundesliga stars. And despite a few hiccups, they made it.
Yep.
And, every team in this tournament has had games that they've lost, that has had matches where they haven't showed up, matches where they were just outmatched by another team. And it just shows the quality top to bottom of European handball now, where you can safely say that there's 12 nations really on the same rung. Yeah. Maybe you spread that out to 14, include Serbia in there.
Faroe Islands probably.
Faroe Islands.
I would have settled in. That would have been battling away that main round like anyone else. Yeah.
So in this case, I think it was very well earned, no matter what, that they did come out in this last game against the Slovenia team, who were probably starting to lose power, especially with the fact that, again, Domen Makuc and Blažians basically played the whole tournament, and they're so reliant on them. The 15 injuries that they received prior to the tournament, and the fact that they're even in some sort of contention towards the end of the main round is extremely impressive. But for Iceland, they didn't slip up when they needed most. They took their chance. They got through, now second in the group, so they played Denmark. And I think this is, as I said, probably the hardest game that Denmark could have had from this side of the draw, because Croatia, they're valiant, they're heroes, but coming up against the top Denmark team in a semi-final is not where they're going to slip up. Sweden, I think Denmark and Sweden know each other quite well. Iceland is a new entity for this Danish team. I don't remember the last time they've played in a very crucial game at a championship.
2022 at that Euro, which is the one where Iceland for a while got so angry with Denmark because Denmark lost the game against France, which took France through to the semi-final ahead of Iceland in 2022. It got to the point where the Icelandic people were signing petitions that Danish would no longer be taught in in Icelandic schools.
Yes.
So, yeah, they did face each other then. That was right at the beginning of the main round, a 4-goal win for Denmark on that occasion.
But yeah, they've only played each other 3 times in any championship over the last 10 years. So that's, they're not two nations that traditionally come up against each other. If you count the amount of times that Denmark have played France or Sweden or Spain or Norway, it all racks up. Iceland and Denmark have been separated. And actually in 2020, when Denmark had their disaster of a tournament, it was Iceland that beat them and knocked them out 31-30 in that game. So there is a certain unknown factor to how these teams match up. Both teams are, play probably similar but different styles. Like, it is really modern handball. It's going to be a lot of penalties, but that is a world where Iceland do live in and do very well in. And I think it's going to be a real challenge for Denmark. I'm going to stop bad-mouthing Denmark now. They've got Thomas Arlenson into the squad, so that solves their last back player solution.
What an addition.
So there's nothing that can stop.
Yeah, Thomas Arlenson timing his recovery perfectly, playing a test match, scoring 14 goals in that test match, and then popping up with a couple today for Denmark. I really like this semi-final pairing. It's like it's ideal for what you want to see in terms of testing these teams at the right time and giving the two teams coming from Group 2 a fighting chance. Because, as you said, with the whole travel thing, with the games back to back, like the teams that are going over to Herning that haven't been there the whole way, facing two teams that have been there the whole time in Germany and Denmark, there is a severe disadvantage. And normally they would probably be the underdogs in those games. I mean, Germany played Croatia in 2 test matches and beat them in both home and away in the build-up to this tournament. Like, form suggests like it's going to be Denmark and Germany all the way. But that's not how...
Exactly. That's not how Croatia let it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Croatia in particular, are not going to let that happen. And, you know, it excited me there when you said about the Germany-France game that, you know, it was also like a classic old-school 9-meter shooting battle, because that is what Croatia are also going to bring to that. And they're going to thrive in that scenario as well. And there'll be no surprises on the Germany. Like, there'll be no surprises for Croatia in terms of what Germany bring, but Croatia will bring something to that game that Germany are not ready for. I don't know what it is. I don't know who it is. You know, they threw in a left back today who's playing his club handball in Bosnia-Herzegovina. You know, this is and he didn't play very well, but you know, they who knows, they might have Cerna back if they fix his hamstring in a couple of days. I've seen stranger things with this team. I think it's a very fitting pair of semi-finals for both of them. I just want to say one thing before we go into like diving into how we think they're going to go. You asked me earlier about what it was like in the Sweden game against Switzerland where they won. Weird, very weird scenario, because, you know, after the Croatia game, there were kids crying in the stands. It was like a miserable time. The Swedish kids' dreams ruined, and Eric Johansson said afterwards that it was hard to find them out, like the energy, but they did, and you know they felt they had to put on a show for their fans in their final game there. The fans gave back. It's been 10 years since 7 points was not enough for a team to get to the semi-final, which Sweden reached alongside Iceland, which I found, like, the fact that they had 3 teams on 7, 7 and 8 points is remarkable considering how strong the rest tight the rest of the group was. So really is, like, in the end of the day, you know, the bottom 2 teams ended up on 2 points because of draws and not beating other teams. But yeah, you have to go back to Denmark 2016. Denmark missed out in 2016 with 7 points. And pretty much every year, there's like this huge disparity between the group winners who end up on like 10 points. And then it's like a second, third, fourth are like 6-5-5 or 6-6-6. So 7 points also would have been enough in pretty much every other championship for Sweden to get through to the semi-final. But that was how this group, it wasn't quite as mad as the main round group with Slovenia, Iceland and Croatia last year at the World Championship, where 1 loss for Iceland knocked them out. But close enough. You know, dropping 3 points is 1 point too many.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And maybe another moment, and maybe France got what they deserved after Dylan Nahi's attack on Adel Sergio.
Oh, that was another time I thought an Achilles had blown. I'm very sensitive about these things these days. You know?
You're listening to that pop. Is it a pop?
Exactly. I'm freaking out on everyone's behalf.
But yeah, that was... It's kind of taken social media by storm, taken media by storm. Really unnecessary challenge from Dylan Nahi, kind of being a thug, which is what he's being branded as, someone who does these shithouses. Like, if you know, he is an absolute purveyor of shithousery in a kind of dangerous way, and a lot of the time just completely gets away with it, and he got away with it again. This famous disciplinary board did not look at that, and
they would only look at something if it's a red card.
Ultimately, it was a bad move, but I don't think he intended to injure Sergio because you give a player a shove as he's going by, that happens. But the fact that it happened in like the last second of a dead game is what makes this quite egregious. And ultimately, for Sergio to get injured from that, it does seem to be like only a couple of weeks that he'll be out and not a long-term injury, which is good. It is just a bit stupid from Dylan Nahi, to an extent where Wisla Plock went on a tirade against him, and the whole Polish community really went against them. It activated that Kielce Wisla Plock rivalry just because Sergio is also a Plock player. Yeah, not great scenes. Not great that happened. So ultimately, France got what they deserved.
So moving on to the semi-finals then. Croatia versus Germany first on Friday night at 5:45. And then at 8:30, the Nordic battle, Denmark versus Iceland. We'll start with the first one then, Germany and Croatia. Everything says to me that like Germany should win this game, as we were talking about. But does this defense from Croatia, like with the potential for what Dominik Kuzmanovic still hasn't quite done but can do, like can that derail Germany here? Because Germany, as they've shown in the test matches and as they've shown, they have a better squad. Croatia are clinging on to the hopes probably that Cerna will be fit. Otherwise they're down to one left back. Ivan Martinovic is limping around as well. On paper it's so one-sided, but Croatia have that defense.
Yeah, I think they have the defense and the passion, and it's impossible to count them out. We've seen them do this time and time again, and we talked about at the start of the tournament who's going to be their Duvniak, and even Martinovic was the prime candidate for that, and he's shown it to an extent of quite literally putting his body on the line to motivate his team, limping through games, giving absolutely everything. So they have that, they have the passion. They're going to have a good amount of fans there. The Croatians always travel for this, and it gives the Croatian team a lot of energy. But ultimately, they are a team that is really, it's exhausted, and they've been through it before. They've been exhausted at tournaments and still won in extra time in a semi-final. They can do that, but it's the fact that Germany on the other side are unblemished. They have a fully fit team. We may have criticized it at times about how they're not too succinct and they don't necessarily know which player is going to be their best on a given day, but it has meant that players have had a lot of rest through the tournament. It has meant that at every position they are fresh. They have fresh legs, they have fresh arms if needed from a very top player. Julian Koster is just there in the background. Schlurov, haven't seen him for 3 games, but he might show up. In goal, they have the 2 goalkeepers. Croatia do as well on the other side. It does have the making of an absolute slog because, again, Germany, while they execute very well, they don't slice through teams in the same way as Denmark or France do at their best. They can dominate a team, but they can also get dragged down into a battle like they did against Serbia. I think that is the template for this match, Germany versus Serbia. It's going to be, I think this German team has progressed a lot since then throughout this tournament. Croatia are a lot more dogged and a lot more experienced at this level, even than this Germany team. This German team over the last couple of years, over the last couple of championships, have brought themselves into that elite team status.
They have been to an Olympic final. We can't disregard
They've been
that.
to an Olympic final, but this is only their second semi-final appearance at a European Championship since 2016 when they won it, won the European Championship. So this is still new for this German team. All that to say is, it's a close match, but I think Germany have made their way into elite status in world handball, in European handball. They are one of the ones that are looking to get a medal every time. They've got the investment in the sport. They got the media. They've seemed to be managing themselves better, and they have Andy Wolf, who will come up at the time that they need. So I think they're in prime position, but hey, if it's some random Bosnian league player that scores a last minute winner in extra time for Croatia, I can see that happening as well.
And now, the ultimate test for you, Alex. Your pre-championship prediction was that Iceland would beat Denmark in a semi-final. Are you sticking with it?
I think I've been leading with my heart for a lot of my predictions, and my heart has been leaning against Denmark winning another championship. And I still do think that they're not so far above every other team in this championship as we've seen in kind of the World Championships previously. The margin has tightened, and it's actually reduced because the other teams have gone up a level. I don't think Denmark are worse than they were in the last World Championship, but I think the teams that they're playing are better, which makes this a really interesting game. And I think for Iceland, the important part is their defense. And they've shown that this defense can show up to an incredible level when they beat Sweden, where the activity they had, the cohesiveness was just absolutely perfect. But they've also shown that it can have holes in it, like conceding 38 goals against Switzerland. So it's down to that concentration in defense. It really hurts them that Elver Jonsson is not there as an additional force in that defense, but they need to be flawless to run with Denmark. And on Denmark's side, as I said, those three guys are going to do the business. I have absolutely zero doubts that they're going to do the business.
You think Thomas Arnoldson goes straight into the starting lineup for that game?
I don't think so, but I think he becomes the first option when Lauga fails. And he will. Like Lauga, he has his moments, but there's going to be a stage where they need to change that up, and they've gone to Lasse Andersson, they've gone to Mads Hoxer, and I think Arnoldson will be thrown into the deep end. But maybe question for you, like I've unequivocally said that all three of those players, Pytlik, Gisel and Nielsen, are going to have a good game in the semi-final, because they've shown that they do it all the time.
Yeah.
What are the chances that one of them has a bad game? And I'm just talking one of them. Like, this is the level that we're talking about, that one of them has a stinker. Like, if you're going to give a percentage chance of that happening, what is that?
I would say there is a not zero chance. I would say there's like a 20 to 30% chance. And I'm looking at the goalkeeper department there. And I'm looking at Emil Nielsen, not because of it's going to be, I feel like it could be one of those weird situations that he's not even allowed necessarily to have a good game, because Iceland won't just throw shots at him. Because Iceland will do what Gisli and Omar Ingi do all the time, is they will wait, and the only shots they'll take is when they win free throws or when they win penalties. And every now and again, there'll be a shot from the wings, or maybe the line player positions are where Emil Nielsen has a chance to really make a difference. Because otherwise, I think it's going to be an absolute slog in that regard. What Denmark have is Magnus Saustrup, who knows everything about those two boys. And I'm sure that they'll be deep in discussion about, how do we actually stop them? But I mean, it should have been the same for Sweden, but it was the other way around. It was Felix Klar and Oscar Bergendahl who were stopped by Iceland. And so I think, going back to what you were saying there about of course the players know each other inside out, but as a national team, Iceland are the team that kind of can gather more from their knowledge of other teams rather than other teams can gather from them. Because you saw what they did to Sweden. They've already played Croatia. They know what Denmark will bring, and kind of Denmark's attack, I think, suits Iceland's defenders more than big shooting Germans from the backcourt. But again, the Icelandic centre backs, play against those German guys every single week and also play with them and know how to hurt them. So I think in that sense, the team that's coming in kind of from the outside there, Iceland, have some bonus in all of this. So I think there's a probably 20 to 30% chance that it happens to someone like Nielsen in that game. But whether that will be enough, I don't know. I think it's going to be a fantastic game, and I hope Iceland can do themselves proud in that regard. This was the final I had in mind in the pre-championship prediction, because I thought Iceland would win the group. But I think Denmark won't have it all their own way, but this Danish team have a higher purpose, which is winning this damned EHF Euro.
Yeah, and I think
I see them going through.
The final factor in all of this is that it's going to be in the boxing. It's going to be filled with Danish fans. It's going to be right beside the hotel that Denmark have been staying in for the whole championship. They're going to be rested. Iceland, again, they also played back-to-back games. They're also traveling for 4 hours on a bus to Herning. They're already have an uphill battle just to get on the court at the same level. And, that could be the difference between these two teams. But you would hope that Iceland drag Denmark into a fight, because it feels like we haven't seen Denmark. Well, we have.
They've lost the game.
They've lost the game, but it's rare that you see Denmark play a game where it's within one goal for the last 10 minutes. It's kind of either they dominate, which they do most of the time, then otherwise, they lose rarely, but when they lose, in this case, Portugal did kind of execute.
There was a couple of goals.
There were a couple of goals up, and they lost it. I would like to see a game where it is trading goals, one game in it. That was what happened in the 2024 Euros, and that's where France won in extra time. So it would be nice to see a game like that again, and give the keys to Giesel and Putlik and see if they can do it again.
That's exciting times. Semi-finals don't always deliver as we hope they do, but I have a feeling these two will. I think they're really well matched, and of course we will be there to recap the semi-finals after they happen, and that one we'll have exclusively on Patreon for our subscribers there. The next public show for everyone will be our post-championship recap. But speaking of buses to Herning, mine departs in less than 9 hours, so I'm going to wrap us up here, and we'll catch you subscribers again for our semi-final recap. Goodbye.